Well, I have a bit of a question for you now, Dave. So even though Sauron did not come into contact with the three Elven rings physically, like I explained earlier, that kind of meant that they were not corrupted. So why then were they still under the influence of Sauron? Because I also told you that we know that when Sauron put on his one ring, then the three elves were like, oh crap, we're going to take off our rings. Well, all the elves actually took off the rings because they knew that Sauron would be able to control them. So how was that?
Because obviously all the other 16 rings were because is it because Sauron was the one that like taught them and he gave them the tools and the skill set to create these rings? So whatever way he did it, maybe when he was coming up with the ingredients, he was like just a little bit of evil in there,
A little bit of this thing that I can manipulate.
Yeah, just a little bit of malice and cruelty and oh god,
way too much. Yeah, no, you are right.
So,
The main reason is because basically, even though Sauron was not involved in the process of creating the three rings, he still would have been able to control them because he taught Celebrimbor how to make them. So Celebrimbor made these three using the techniques that Sauron had taught him, and so he was still then able to manipulate these rings. Maybe not to the same extent of the first 16 that he was actually involved in their making. He was like hands on. So those ones were probably easier to corrupt, but the other three had been made using the same technique. So if you can almost think of Sauron as this kind of like computer programming teacher, and he's like teaching the elves how to code, and then they're like using this computing language and these like coding techniques, and then Sauron's like the master coder. So even though he wasn't present, he's like, I know how they code, so I can break their firewalls and crack their codes and kind of stuff like that. So that's kind of the way it was, but. So basically when he made the one ring, that was the most powerful thing, and he was able to control any of the rings that were out there because Sauron was like really good at arts and crafts as well. Like he loved making jewelry. He's really, really good. Okay. So
Lord of the Arts and Crafts.
Exactly. The Dark Lord of the Arts and Crafts.